In this video, we will be tasting and talking about batch 100 of the Eco Cha Tea Club, a light roast high mountain oolong tea from Taiwan. Batch 100 of the Eco Cha Tea Club is a light roast high mountain oolong tea from Taiwan. This batch of tea was procured by our tea mentor Lisa Lin. Lisa and Tony, her husband, have been our tea teachers since we started going to tea country here in Taiwan in 1993. We arrived at their factory on the night of their winter harvest and spent the night in their home. And that experience changed our lives, literally. And here we are, 31 years later and 100 batches into the Eco Cha Tea Club. We're happy to commemorate the 100th batch with tea that was from Lisa. She tasted this fall 2023 harvest from a friend who I also know and have known for 25 years. It's actually, this tea was made by my friend's son, who I met again. The last time I remember seeing the son, he was in elementary school. Now he's married and has a kid, and he's running the newly built factory and campground outside of the factory. We just visited. Tony Lin and I rode up there a few days ago, actually, and checked it all out. This tea was not, the factory was still being built last year. It's brand new. The factory was a different factory where this tea was processed. The plot of tea is on Big Wheel Mountain, not far from where we source our regular in-store product of Shan Lin Xi High Mountain Tea. Big Wheel Mountain is a large section of the Shan Lin Xi tea growing region. There's only one area that's possibly bigger in terms of its overall produce, called Longfengxia, Dragon Phoenix Gorge, right over the ridge from Big Wheel Mountain, really. So Big Wheel Mountain faces kind of north, and the sun doesn't hit it until 8 or 9 in the morning, and the northernmost section of it not until after 10 a.m. And that whole area, especially the Big Wheel Mountain side of the Shan Lin Xi region that's facing north, gets the fog rolling in earliest. It's coming in from the north, and it's usually socked in by 1 or 2 p.m. So that early afternoon fog is one of the contributing factors to what makes Shan Lin Xi taste the way it does. It gets relatively less direct sunlight. It definitely gets enough, and I've been up there and gotten sunburn on the farm just by being up there for like an hour. So it gets really intense sun. It's 1,500 meters. This plot of tea was probably 1,300 meters. So Lisa tasted this fall batch of tea from our mutual friend, and she thought it really had a special fragrance to it, an aromatic profile that is extraordinary for a fall batch of tea. She bought 1 bulk bag, and then she went back and bought 6. So for Lisa to buy 6 bags of anything, it's got to impress her a lot. So we heard this after she had roasted it relatively lightly. It's not even close to being a Dongding Oolong tea by Lugu Farmers Association standards. And we were actually just happened to be looking for something like this, a light roast oolong to share. It's kind of a specific part of the oolong spectrum. High mountain tea being unroasted, Dongding Oolong tea being a medium, slightly heavy roast maybe. But that, you know, there's a good amount of area on that spectrum in between unroasted and medium roast. And we really like teas that are roasted to this degree. So we asked Lisa, and she's like, oh yeah, I just finished roasting this batch. There's a lot of coincidence in our experience in our tea life. But anyway, literally, she had finished roasting it within days before I asked. I tasted it, and it was like perfect. So here we are, full circle, so to speak. Got to hang out with Tony and Lisa for the day, going up to the farm, speaking with the son of Tony's former coworker. Tony has been retired for, well, I think it's 4 years now, coming up on 5, from the Farmers Association. Yeah, it kind of puts things in perspective, so to speak, like we're getting old, but it also, the richness that develops over the years is quite meaningful. So light roast, fall harvest, 1,300 meters, Lin Shan, one of our favorite areas, and especially because the tea that is harvested there is made by some of the most skilled tea artisans on the island of Taiwan, in our personal opinion, let's say. But I think a lot of people would concur. And we're offering it as our 100th batch of the Tea Club. I'm really thirsty. I brewed, this is, after, you know, one of the factors about a volume of a teapot, you can see the large lip in the design of this teapot, and it's a relatively small teapot. So if I measure the volume without the lid, it's going to be over 150 milliliters. But by the time you put the lid on, it takes out at least 10, if not more, milliliters. So let's call it a 140 milliliter pot. I put 9.5 grams in, roughly a 1:15 ratio of leaves to water. I brewed it with boiling temperature water for 1 minute. Then second brew 50 seconds, third brew back to 1 minute, fourth brew 1 minute 10 seconds, and fifth brew 1 minute 20 seconds. Wow, the most prominent thing in that first sip is noticing the oxidation level, which is not something I had thought about very much in recent brewings of this tea. It's definitely sufficiently oxidized, and that I think it's kind of hit a sweet spot between being lightly oxidized enough to keep the aromatic profile fresh and complex and interesting, but oxidized enough to have a base and a sweetness factor and something to work with the roasting process that Lisa did. After swallowing, exhaling through the nose, there's a lot of toasted grains, pastry, kind of aromatic profile. When I was brewing it, the first few brews, every time I took off the lid, it was very much those kind of sweet, toasty, pastry-esque, but not overly sweet, just kind of that flour baked goods. I'm getting a little more of the piney aspect of Shan Lin Xi off the cooled down leaves now. So Shan Lin Xi means, Shan is a cedar, the tree, and every time I smell this tea, I think about the meaning of the name, because there's just something about it that makes you think of an alpine forest, whether it's unroasted or lightly roasted like this, or even most prominently when it's made into something like a Dongding Oolong tea. Let's take a sip of the second one. I don't know. It really kind of resonates with me because it offers such a much more body and fuller profile than a high mountain tea, an unroasted high mountain tea. But it's softer in its character than a Dongding Oolong tea made with high mountain tea. So there is a character of using higher elevation raw produce for a roasted tea. But in Lugu, the oxidation factor, sufficient oxidation for making roasted tea, is more easily found than in most places. It's just a nice balance of fresh and toasty. I don't think roasted very much when I taste this because there's a lot going on. It's zingy, it's got a little bit enough astringency. I wouldn't think astringent. It's more like that fruity kind of character where there's sweet and astringent going on. What would I think of? Maybe even something as strong as a nectarine in that sense. I taste the fifth brew being definitely milder. It's still very satisfying, but it's not as strong as the previous brews. Let's see if I notice difference. Yeah. Third brew wins. It just kind of reaches a balance. I think they were still opening up on the first and second brews. Totally. The second brew is significantly stronger than the first, and the third brew just has a more fuller profile than the second. I'd say the third and fourth are similar. So this is a very thin-walled pot, and it's small. I have brewed this tea in a slightly larger pot with thicker walls, and I think that makes a difference. With a thicker, heavier pot, the leaves just kind of get brewed more quickly. It's more intense of an effect, even though, you know, technically it evidently is pretty close in temperature and everything. Each pot tastes different. We all know that if you're into using gongfu teapots. So I decided to go with a small pot, basically because I'm the only one drinking this, and I don't know, this pot caught my eye today. And I think Lisa really did a nice job on it. She recognized the quality of the tea coming straight from the factory and perceived its potential, perhaps knowing that she would roast it not very extensively, just enough to give it a fuller character and to bring more body into this already aromatic, full aromatic profile. Batch 100 of the Eco Cha Tea Club. Sorry, I like saying that. It's, I guess I'm proud and also very grateful that I continue to experience the tea culture here through my dear friends and Taiwanese family, Tony and Lisa. This journey is not going to end anytime soon. Thanks for being with us. See you next month.